has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Mom, I just need you to call me back. Please. I really need to talk to you as soon as you get a minute. If you could just call me back, that would be great. I love you. Bye.
I heard the voicemails that Carol left my mom the morning of May 20th. My mom, of course, didn't get these voicemails till later in the day.
Please, please, please.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Mom, I don't know what to do anymore. Mom, I haven't slept. I'm so tired. Mom, I think I really need some help. I'm so scared. Things are so weird over here. Can you call me back? I just need you to call me back. Okay, I love you. Bye.
It's absolutely heartbreaking to hear my sister in so much pain. She was hurting so bad. She needed help, and unfortunately, she didn't call me.
When I first heard that Carol harmed her daughters, I knew she was sick. I knew there was something wrong with her. She would never harm her child. You don't do this on purpose.
Who in their right mind could do this to their own kids? Who? If there's a person out there, I hope I never meet him, but Carol wasn't that person to me.
Hi, Ozzy. Ata, mi tikita. I'm recording. Yazzie and Mommy?
Carol was one of the sweetest, greatest people you would ever come encounter with. She was a great mom. She was always there for my daughters.
Carol was extremely beautiful. She was not only beautiful, but she was also very sweet. She was very genuine. What you see is what you get with her. Just very gentle. Even her voice is very soft. I can't imagine Carol ever raising her voice.
Carol was an amazing mom. She loved her baby girls so much.
Sophia.
What's Sophie?
Hush. Sophia.
Oh, she found a cookie.
Nella wafer from your snack.
She always had either Yazzie or Sophie in her arms, right? So she adored her kiddos. I felt very comfortable around her, and I think that if she was available, I would most certainly ask her to watch my kids for a few hours and so forth, just because I knew how gentle she was with her kids.
There was times when my son would go out to her house and she would take him out to San Pedro to go see the boats. She took my kids, something that I've never even done. To this day, she took them out to go see the stars.
Carol's compassion for others is probably one of the biggest things about her.
She loves people. She wants to help. She was in the CCCs, California Conservation Corps. She was in the Army briefly. She got honorably discharged for a problem with her hip. She then moved on to the Naval Reserve.
She was very ambitious, always trying to educate herself, reading books, asking a lot of questions. She was very curious about the professional world. I know for sure that she did become a certified X-ray technician, and she was very proud of that. She had goals and ambitions. Eventually, she wanted to run the radiology department.
She always got herself into something. School, she was taking online classes. So she was still going to the university while feeding and breastfeeding and changing diapers and caring for the girls.
If she was ever feeling anything, any type of depression, or she's feeling sad or even stressed out, I did not sense it. I did not see it. The only thing I saw in her was joy and pride and just happy to be a mom and just happy to have her daughters.
There is no more sacred relationship in our sense of how the world should work than the relationship between a mom and her child. We rely on that relationship. It's what's kept the species going.
When we hear that a mother has taken the life of her child, we're horrified. The public is horrified. They see her as the devil. They see her as evil.
The initial reaction is one of revulsion, one of anger. The actions so defy what we all hold as being the pinnacle of love, Madonna and child.
The idea that a mother who's supposed to love her child would kill that child, in any way harm and neglect that child, is really difficult to grasp. Until you understand, what I've learned to understand is that it's absolutely not her fault.
The numbers of women who suffer is shocking. It is horrifying. We now know that is a leading cause of maternal death in the first year. Women are committing suicide, and we're not still addressing this as a major public health issue.
Motherhood is full of paradoxical feelings. I love this child. This child is, you know, getting on my nerves. I love motherhood. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Every day is a series of paradoxes which can build up to create no-win situations. The more stress that a person has in their lives, and having multiple children, having economic stress, having work stress, relationship stress, then our ability to manage and hold all of that is severely compromised. And so it's actually not surprising that some women snap.
Always kind of get the same kind of colors for them. We used to kind of have colors for them. Sophie's color was purple. Yazi's color was yellow. Zenia was white. They were what I love the most in my life. I miss them so much. They were bright. Everywhere they showed up, they illuminated the place. I can't believe. I can't believe it. It hurt. To see their beautiful faces. You know? Oh my God. So sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
This afternoon, this driveway is where sorrow still lingers. Over here, you will find a growing memorial for 3 young girls who were found dead in a bed, and now their mother is facing criminal charges.
We know they're all in heaven. Please pray for my babies. Pray for Rudy. And even pray for that woman, because she had a demon inside her that day.
The suspect in this case is 30-year-old Carol Coronado. Carol had called her mom saying she was going crazy. When the grandmother came to help, she found the bodies of her 3 grandchildren in one bed. Carol, the grandmother said, had been stabbing herself.
I go to the Twin Towers right now and go see Carol. She's housed in the medical ward inside the jail. Need to visit her about the upcoming trial we have. I'm looking for the right result, which I believe and our experts believe is that she's not guilty by reason of insanity. You know, yes, the act was done. I don't think there's a real question as to who did the act. We're not really arguing that. The argument comes down to what was her state of mind at the time of this incident. You know, everyone agrees that there's something going on with Carol. Something was going on at the time of this incident. You know, she wasn't herself. The prosecutor, Ms. Spears, and her team of police officers that are working on this case are very set on convicting her of first-degree murder. But what keeps me going is knowing that Carol wouldn't have done this. You know, knowing her as a person and knowing more and more about postpartum psychosis keeps me going. It keeps me doing everything I can for the right result for her.
I met Carol Coronado upon her arrival at Twin Towers Correctional Facility, roughly maybe 6 days after her crime. When I met her, she was similar to a catatonic patient. She appeared extremely depressed. She barely moved. We had placed her in a gown, a Kevlar material. It's not comfortable. Most inmates ask right away, how long am I going to be in the gown? When do I get out of the gown? She didn't mention the gown. It's like it wasn't even there. She seemed very thin. She looked like she had not been eating. And even though she had just had surgery and had been given medications, you know, to help her sleep, it sounded like she hadn't slept in over a week, and she looked like it. The diagnosis that I gave her in layman's term is postpartum psychosis. There were 3 psychiatrists who had seen her in those first 5 or 6 days. And the consensus was that, this is a very sick patient. Also, I screened her for depression, and it did appear that she had had depression after both of her pregnancies, actually, and, wasn't treated. So that actually elevates her risk significantly during a 3rd pregnancy. So she had that risk factor there.
We're at the Alpine Village Swap Meet. I sell auto parts here. I've been here for 7 years. Eso para el liqueo.
Ajá.
Para el liqueo y para cuando se está el hard shift.
Ajá. ¿Cuánto cuesta este?
10.
Ok, gracias.
Okay.
Ajá.
A lot of people come through. For me, this is the hardest part of the day, is picking up, getting ready to leave to go home. I used to be in a rush to go home. I couldn't wait to get home to my girls. And now, it's like the part that I miss the most is my hi daddies, my smiles. They used to run to me when I got home. And I don't get none of that no more. As a father, I was kind of raised to work, provide for your family. We didn't really have no luxuries. Like, we didn't have a lot of extras, but we weren't, like, struggling. We were okay. I love the fact of having to provide for my family, because that made me. I love the fact of waking up in the morning, coming to work. Because before I left to work, I would look around and I'd see my little girls. And that was my energy, that was my power to push. And I pushed. For them, I pushed. It's hard for parents with one child, let alone 2, and then 3, and then back to back. It's very hard. Carol did most of the duties when it came to my daughters. I would help her, but she did mainly 95% of it. Now, I did like going to work and providing, but she did most of the maintaining. So it was very difficult for Carol as well. It was very difficult.
Carol's babies were very close together. Sophia and Yazzie were 14 months apart, and Yazzie and Xenia were only 13 months apart. Shortly after they got engaged, she found out she was pregnant, and she was so excited about it. She'd send pictures and tell me when her doctor's appointments were, and, oh, we gotta go see the baby today. She was always super excited about it. When Sophia came, it was probably the happiest day. I don't know that I've ever seen her happier. She was full of joy. She was definitely very excited about meeting her, holding her. She didn't want to let go of her baby. It was her baby. I don't think she had any difficulties with it. She didn't complain about being overly uncomfortable.
Big bite, big bite. Big bite, big bite.
I don't know that she was necessarily ready to have more babies. I don't necessarily think any of them were planned. I think they were kind of more surprises, welcome surprises.
when Carol became pregnant with Yasmin, she was having problems, maybe because they were too close together, I don't know. There's points where she was bent over and she couldn't get up in the kitchen. I had to help her up and put her in bed.
I didn't notice any changes in Carol after Yazzie, other than the fact that she was tired, but you know, I'm a mom too. I'm tired all the time. She didn't seem sad.
I mean, I know that she was very, very stressed because the kids were so close in age. My kids are 2 years apart, so I understood what she was going through when you have little kids. But she was always very patient. She would never yell at the girls.
Do that one. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Good job, Sophia. 5-5.
Carol did confide in me that it was very difficult for her because she was trying to better herself. She was trying to finish her bachelor's degree. She was trying to do a lot of things that were already difficult as it was, and still trying to be a mother and a wife. When, you know, she was with the children all day, Rudy was working, and when he would come home, she would expect him to take over so she could try to do things, make dinner or study or do whatever she needed to do. But Rudy expected certain things. His mother was a stay-at-home mom, and so he expected dinner to be set and to take care of the kids, and he would go to work and come home and things should be done.
When Carol was pregnant with Xenia, we went to a baby shower, and she was probably like 7 months or so, and she couldn't walk. And so then I looked at her, and then I said, "Are you okay?" And then she says, "Yeah." She's like, "I get a lot of pain." And she's like, it happened with my second pregnancy, and I don't know what it is, but it's like I can't, like almost like she was crippled because she was limping and she couldn't walk straight.
Carol was feeling a lot of pressures after the third baby. When Xenia came into the picture, she just was tired, more tired than hungry, she would say all the time. "Mom, I'm tired, I'm hungry." Xenia was real hard on her. And then she fell into like a depression.
When we had Xenia, we argued a little more than usual, taking care of a newborn child and you know, the lack of sleep, the lack of rest. And plus it's the third child, it's not the first or the second, so it's a lot more intense.
I was nervous for her. I was nervous about Xenia coming so quickly after Yazzie. I mean, that's stressful on anybody. Rudy didn't help too much, so I was really hoping that would change after Xenia so she could at least get a little bit more sleep than she was getting.
Sometimes we'd go over there and help him out and talk to him and tell him, "Hey, you have to help your wife. You have to be a team player. It's okay for a man to wash a dish. It's okay for a man to change a diaper."
She seemed to get more angry maybe towards Rudy. Like she would describe, he would get upset with her when the babies woke him up in the middle of the night. So she had to be on constant baby duty, which made her more tired.
As I do look back at the whole situation, I wish I would have done more to help her, to relieve her of duties. Yes, she was a good wife. She was a good woman. She was a good woman. She was always attentive of everything. She was always there. She helped out a lot. She helped out a lot. She was a better wife than I was a husband. She was a better wife than I was a husband. She was a better person than me. She's a way better person than me. She just went through this. She went through this psychotic disease, and it ruined both of our lives.
Perinatal illness knows no boundaries. It can strike anyone, rich, poor, male, female. It doesn't matter what culture you're from, what ethnicity, how old you are. No one is immune.
There is a full spectrum of mental illnesses or mental health struggles that arise in the aftermath of childbirth. There's the baby blues that happen when the hormones are just crashing and burning after you have a baby. You'll go from a real high to a real low, where you're suddenly weepy and just uncontrollably sad.
The baby blues is very common among women. About 3 out of 4 women who give birth are going to experience this. Symptoms usually go away in 2 to 3 weeks.
Aside from that, there's the more serious postpartum depression that sets in for a percentage of the population, and it's generally within the first 6 weeks.
One of the hallmark characteristics of postpartum depression is the inability to sleep.
Sleep deprivation is absolutely key. Sleep deprivation is used as a torture technique. And so sleep deprivation is one of the key risk factors.
Then one of the other ways in which we see postpartum depression present is with panic attacks. Women feel as though they can't cope. They feel totally overwhelmed. In some severe cases, women and they're not able to take care of their baby.
Postpartum psychosis is at the far end of that spectrum of mental illnesses. It happens in 1 or 2 women out of every 1,000 babies that are born.
It's a common misconception that postpartum psychosis is just really bad depression, but baby blues doesn't get worse, and then it's depression, and then it gets worse, and then it's psychosis. They're different.
Mental illness is a beast, and postpartum is a nasty.
The words postpartum depression to me mean living hell.
I had never heard of the term postpartum depression. And when this baby came around, I was hit by a buzz.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. I went in, working 80 hours, doing well. I came out wanting to kill myself.
I noticed I was really irritable. I felt down. I was angry. I would lash out.
I'm experiencing daily anxiety attacks, something I'd never experienced in all of my 40 years.
The anxiety just kept getting worse and worse, and it was just these constant thoughts that you just could not shut up in your own mind. That was part of the living hell. And it would be anything from, like I said, the baby wipe, to not wanting the kid, to having to make dinner, to doing the laundry, to she's crying again, till I gotta feed her, till I gotta get up, my husband's coming home, people are visiting, I'm exhausted.
He would cry, I would cry, and we would just cry together.
I fell 5 million feet down. I wanted to be the mother that I had always dreamed of being. And instead of being able to be that mother, I was on my knees and I could hardly function.
My wife would get into her depressed states and she would basically just not take care of herself, my daughter, even the animals in the house, like the dogs and the cats wouldn't get fed. Like my daughter would be still in the same diaper since I left for work in the morning.
I stopped eating. I lost 55 pounds in 2 months.
But I also was really struggling with intrusive thoughts about harming my baby.
I would be holding her and I would think, I wonder if I just banged her head into the counter. And then I'd be like, what do you mean? I don't want to bang her head into the counter.
I would pass an electrical cord and I would suddenly imagine it around my baby's neck. I would pass a microwave. I would imagine putting the baby in the microwave. Any possible harm.
These thoughts are alien to these women. It's not that they really want to do it. And in fact, they feel terrible. they are just tortured.
I was horribly ashamed and really quite afraid of telling anyone. I kept the scariest of the images and thoughts to myself. And it was a horrible, deep secret.
And all I could think of was, if I just close my eyes and go to sleep, she'll be fine. My husband and my mother are here to take care of her. I did my job. I brought her into this world. I am not equipped to take care of her. My job was just to be a vessel and bring her here. There's no way I can even try to take care of this young baby.
Most women feel like they're going off the deep end. They have absolutely no idea what's happening to them.
And again, the shame of feeling depressed at a time when you're expected to feel really happy tends to exacerbate the problem of postpartum depression. Women tend not to name it. They tend not to talk to their doctors or even their spouses about it.
And we blame ourselves. And we think there's something wrong with us. And we silence ourselves. And the stigma piles on, and it piles on, and it piles on. And I'm not gonna say out loud that I don't feel connected to my child. I'm not gonna say out loud that I don't feel attached. I'm not gonna tell you that I'm terrified to be a mother, that I'm afraid that I made the worst decision, that my child would be better off without me. I'm not gonna say any of those things.
The father of those 3 young girls allegedly murdered by their mother in Torrance came face to face with his wife in court today for the first time since that family tragedy.
No cameras were allowed in court, but reporters were. Carol Coronado was brought out in a wheelchair. We watched as Rudy Coronado shook uncontrollably and wiped away tears every time her name was mentioned.
This obviously was a big story. The public was very interested. There are hardly ever stories like this where a mother is accused of killing her own children.
I just want to thank everybody for their support. Everybody.
I first found out about the case when my boss called me in the evening, and she told me that to turn on the news. And I turned on the news and started watching some of the facts of the case. Cases aren't typically assigned personally like this particular case was. Usually they just arrive on my desk and I prosecute them from that. But given the media attention to the case and given the other difficulties of prosecuting this particular case, she offered me the option of prosecuting it. And I did want to take it. I mean, those little girls deserved my efforts to get them justice.
Coronado has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but the prosecutor, she's accusing Coronado of planning the murders, even though her family insists she was a good and loving mother.
I know Carol, and she would never, ever in a million years do anything like that to no one. And I don't have a lick of hate for her. I love her. As the mother of my children, and she doesn't know what she did. That's why I'm gonna stand behind her 1,000% because I know she didn't do it. It's a disease out there that destroys families.
Can you tell me, what if she exhibited any sort of signs or?
There was a lot of signs that I didn't know how to read. Here's the reason why we need to bring awareness to it, because I was never educated on nothing like this. I didn't have a clue. We need to bring awareness to this disease because there is a disease out there that needs to be known for everybody to save more lives, save more babies, save more families.
Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
Rudy was the victim. He was the family member of the children who were killed. And yet he wasn't calling her evil or anything and distancing himself from her and showing anger or anything. He was standing by her. I was surprised. I'd really never seen a case like that.
People affected by the postpartum psychosis, they're not themselves anymore. They don't know what's real, they don't know what's fake. There's no way Carol could have hurt her babies knowing that they were her babies.
Not a chance. Carol, when I went and visited her at the Twin Towers and trying to find out what actually happened, you can't talk because everything's being tape recorded, she goes, Mama, her voices. I went like, what voices, Carol? Because I'm interested now. What voices? She just shook her head, no, I can't tell you, Mom. Someone was telling her to kill the children. So, of course, that's lingering in my head, like that happened to me. But when I had that, tell me, kill my child when I was breastfeeding, well, I didn't take action. So, like I said, I don't understand. If it's hereditary, yeah, I had the symptom of that.
Postpartum psychosis is an awful illness to have. Often it will occur very abruptly. The symptoms include confusion. They may not know where they are or what day it is.
These are women who have a complete break with reality in that they are hearing voices or even seeing delusions, seeing things that aren't there. They lose the ability to distinguish between what's reality and what's just a hallucination.
There are delusions associated with postpartum psychosis. Sometimes it's about the baby being evil. Sometimes mother is feeling terribly inadequate.
Postpartum psychosis is a psychiatric emergency, and these women must be separated from their babies because we don't really know what's going on in their minds.
The statistics are that about 4% of these women will commit infanticide, and about 5% of these women will commit.
I've never heard about postpartum psychosis, nor were we ever spoken to about that after Shane was born.
Postpartum psychosis, I had never heard of that. In fact, until I don't even know, 4, 5, 6 months ago, when I started looking into postpartum depression after my wife was dead.
I suffered postpartum psychosis. I had it with my first child in 1980. During my first prenatal visit, when I saw my midwife, I told her I had done some pretty crazy things after Allison was born and I was hospitalized in the psychiatric unit. And her advice at the time was, you don't have to worry about that happening again.
I had a daughter named Melanie who wanted a baby more than life itself. And when Melanie delivered her baby, she went into postpartum psychosis immediately. I had no idea how deadly it was. I had no idea how many mothers had killed their children under the influence of postpartum psychosis. I had no idea that I wasn't going to be able to save my daughter.
Everything really was picture perfect until I stopped nursing Michael at 9 months. Little did I know that that was going to drive me completely insane, and that's what happened.
I really only noticed anything a little less than 2 weeks prior to their deaths. It happened so quickly. It really started after she took a birth control pill, and she was never the same person from then on. Extreme paranoia, abnormal anxiety that I've never witnessed in my wife.
I started to think that Michael was the devil and that it was really my calling that I needed to drown him. I remember kneeling, begging God to tell me what to do. And I took him and filled up the bathtub with lukewarm water, and I just placed him down until he died.
It seemed like Melanie was determined to die. She said, "Oh, Mommy, I'm such a bad mother. The baby doesn't deserve to have a mother as bad as I am, and I shouldn't live." She checked in a hotel, and she went up to the 12th or 13th floor. I don't really want to know. And she jumped out of a window.
My wife, Charlene, I believe she did, in the end, take her life and Shane's life because she was suffering from postpartum psychosis. Just the fact that there was not enough information that could have prepared us for what was going on is a failure, with our system.
My wife is dead. My kids have no mom. What I want to tell guys out there, or husbands, if you know or you feel something's off, you need to go talk to somebody. You need to go get help. And I would go even so far as to say you need to get her in the car, like right then, and go somewhere like a hospital.
You want to go by Carol's house where she kind of grew up?
Sure.
Right now we're in Compton. Compton's still Compton. Still not a safe place. Carol grew up around the corner. They were like the white kids in the neighborhood. She was in the Carson area.
I've known Carol over 20 years. She was a sweet, quiet little girl. She would sit to herself, play by herself.
She's very passive like her mother. Very sweet thing. She was very obedient.
This is Carol's old house where she grew up.
It's Greenland?
Yeah. I didn't used to look this way. It was all beat up like this. And then here's this house over here. Every time we would come by here, she would either start crying or she'd kind of go like this in this house right here. She said she got this house right here. She said she was like 5 years old. So yeah, we would come by this house, we would come by the street right here, and she would either shrivel up, or if we came walking, she would run past this like a little girl, like she would have flashbacks of when she was young.
Carol did have some traumatic events in her life. She was a couple different times. Once by a family member. She had a scenario when she was in the Army briefly. To my knowledge, she didn't report it to anybody, but she did tell us about it.
She was always stuck in the past of all the traumatic things that happened to her. So every time something happened, she would always compare it to something that happened in the past. And her past, she was real fearful of.
We know now, the science is there, that there is a significant correlation between early childhood trauma and later psychotic illness. I think we have to look back at her psychiatric history, her trauma history, so that we can understand how did she get from this place where she gave birth to this child that she really wanted to the events that occurred.
You know, what's so fascinating about this case, and tragic, of course, at the same time, is that there were 3 babies lost.
Right.
Not just one,
And because it's 3 babies and not 1, we vilify her 3 times as much.
Instead of recognizing that that's a risk
Right.
factor, they were all under 3, and what
Right.
mom doesn't understand.
And a
what
woman
is
with
our
mental illness, a woman who was seriously mentally ill. I mean, you're familiar with Carol's case. You've spoken with Rudy. You're very well versed in, her own trauma history. And it's like a textbook. I mean, she checks all the boxes. She has, first of all, was hearing, voices from the time she was age 5, has been a witness to domestic violence, has been repeatedly, and so all of us can only withstand so much.
When I look at the facts around Carol's case, the mental illness piece actually isn't just the psychosis. It's every bit of the baggage that she brought with her into the work of parenting. Who would have thought that it'd be a great idea to have a woman who had as much trauma as she did as a child at home by herself with a 2.5-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn? I mean, who should be alone in the house with a 2.5-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn for hours at a time? That's a prescription for disaster, and yet we expect this of mothers every day. I mean, who among us is so hardy and healthy and strong that we can go into parenting 3 little kids in isolation that way? It's a system that's set up for failure. The expectation that moms can do this alone and that they don't need support needs to change. It's that expectation that motherhood is a solitary sport that needs to be shifted.
It's hard for any of us who haven't experienced this or lived with this firsthand to understand how could this happen?
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, I think we can understand if we put ourselves in Carol's shoes. Maybe that could have been me. I wasn't such a strong mom when I had my babies. It was so hard. So it could have been me. Could have been me.
Now thinking back, knowing about postpartum, I see the signs now.
She was getting depressed just about a month or 2 before the incident.
Her eyes were drooping, and she just kept saying, "Oh man, Robin, I'm so tired." She would just describe her nights. As soon as she got Xenia down, Yazzie would wake up, and then Yazzie screaming would cause Rudy to wake up, and then he would yell at her, which would then wake up Xenia, and then now she has 2 babies to deal with. It was rough. I told her, I was like, you need to get him to help you.
In May, I sensed that Carol was very overwhelmed. She was depressed. She was trying to do the best she could. She was trying to help put the girls in daycare and go back to work, because that was the only way that she would be able to further her annual salary. She didn't like where they were living. They were living in a back house that was a garage converted into a room, a room and a half. It was very small. It wasn't a place for the girls to play in the front yard. Given the childhood that she dealt with, she wanted more for her children. She wanted to give them a safe environment to grow up in. Her children were her motivation.
The week before my son's birthday party, she was there. She only had the baby because Sophia and Yazzie were with their godmother. She's like, oh, I'm just so tired. I just needed some help. She was there physically, but it didn't seem like she was there mentally. She was rude. She didn't hold Xenia. It seemed like she was not Carol.
Days before it happened, she was acting weird, going outside and shutting off the power to the house. One day she jumped on me. The day before she jumped on me, She's not a violent person. She's not a physical person.
The day before when she was at my house, even the look in her face, her eyes were dilated. I remember telling my daughter, her eyes look funny. But never have I imagined that they were funny because something she was going through.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Mom, I just need you to call me back, please.
She was acting weird since the morning. Since we woke up, she was acting weird. She woke up, screamed like a crazy person. You know, and I didn't know how to deal with it or how, so I just kind of walked out and called her mom.
I feel guilty about that day because I couldn't answer my phone. I was driving school buses. And it kept ringing and ringing and ringing.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
I need help, Mom. I'm just nervous. I've been having anxiety. I can't sleep. And everything just feels really wrong. I think I just need you to call me back when you have a second, okay? I love you.
The day of, I was supposed to watch the baby. I was gonna watch it, Sophia and the baby. She was supposed to bring them over so I could watch them. And I have guilt because I tell myself if I would have had a car, I could have picked them up and they would still be here.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Mom, if you could call me back, I think I really need some help. We had a really big fight this morning and I don't know what to do anymore. We're running out of money and I haven't slept. I'm so tired.
In the afternoon, I was outside working in a car. In the afternoon, I went to the auto parts to get a part for the car. But before I left, I called her mom again and told her that she was acting weird. Carol was acting real weird.
I get off work at 4:15. I parked in the driveway. I went in the house, and she's. But I said, Carol, you okay? The girls were dressed, all three laying on the bed, and I thought they were all three asleep. I said, oh, and I hugged her. How was your day, Carol? Oh, it wasn't a good day, Mom.
Her mom called, screaming at me across the street. And she didn't want me to go in the house. She told me, Carol, I killed my daughter. Then I went inside. See my little girl's dead. Carol was naked holding a knife. And I wanted to kill her. I wanted to kill her. But I don't know what stopped me.
She backed up and went around that bed. She did have a knife in her hand. She was an animal backed up in a corner. That's how I'm going to say it. She's going, come on, look at me and Rudy. But I never seen my daughter act like that. She's up on her haunches and three kids, the three children there, and she went like this. She took a breath. She lifted up her breast, and she stabbed herself.
Carol had a pretty significant attempt. She actually ruptured the sac around her heart. So she got pretty close, actually, to her heart. So that tells us she wanted to die. right away.
In a surprising number of cases of mothers who kill their children, there's also an attempt. It's all a product of a decision that the mom has made, that she's failed in her job and that she has to kill herself. And then this, again, distorted thinking about what a good mom would do if she's actually going to kill herself, which would be to protect her children by taking them with her. And it's a pattern that is not always recognized because the crime of killing the children is so heinous and shocking that we ignore the attempt. We just sort of, it was like not even a serious attempt. But we actually strip ourselves then of the ability to understand these cases, that the genesis of the crime comes from the mom's decision that she can't go on anymore.
It's been over a year since we started on Carol's case, and we're prepared for trial at this point. Well, it's a big case. It's an important case. You know, Carol's life is on the line here, and it's basically an area of law that's really not touched a lot. It's not seen a lot. And I don't think the laws are necessarily in line with what the defense is, so we're hoping that we can get the right result and change things, change the way that it's seen. And maybe things will change in the future. That's what we're hoping. We're hoping for a change in the law.
Although people will describe this country as the most civilized country in the world, when it comes to issues of postpartum depression psychosis resulting in the death of a child, we're backward. We're not progressive, we're regressive.
The United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and 29 other European countries have infanticide laws. And these infanticide laws provide for the biological vulnerability of childbirth. If a woman kills her baby under 1 year of age and she is found to have a mental illness, she is charged with manslaughter instead of homicide, and she's sent to a psychiatric hospital.
Here in the United States, we think of these issues very, very differently. And the laws are in direct conflict with how we think about psychosis and what we know about postpartum psychosis as mental health professionals.
The way that the criminal justice system responds to mental illness is to have a statute. Every state has its own statute for deciding who's insane and who's not. If you're insane, you have a 100% defense against the charge of homicide or of murder, right? So the stakes are really high for the criminal justice system because you're going to walk away with a not guilty for reasons of insanity. That possibility makes many states so nervous that they have clung to a 19th century definition of insanity.
About half of our states have something called the McNaughton Statute. And what that states is that in order to be found mentally ill, the person did not know right from wrong at the time of the crime.
These laws assume that a person who is in the throes of deep mental illness is actually capable of thinking logically about right and wrong. And from the medical point of view, by definition, somebody who is in the throes of this profound psychotic episode is not capable of rational thought. Our doctors laugh at it when we tell them, oh, this is how you decide who's insane and who's sane.
There were two phases to this trial. The first was the guilty phase to determine whether Carol was guilty of committing the murders, and then the sanity phase.
Let's go ahead on the record now. People versus Coronado. Ms. Coronado is present, represented by Mr. Allen, and we have Ms. Spear here for the people.
Certainly this is one of the most heinous crimes I've seen, and I've seen quite a lot in 10 years. But those little girls, they were absolutely slaughtered. I actually went to the girls' autopsies, and those girls were babies. And to see babies laid out on a cold slab like that was just absolutely terrifying, absolutely terrifying. It's something I will never, ever forget.
The prosecutor had investigators describe the knives they found, including 3 knives laid out on a table. She's accusing Coronado of planning the murders.
We heard from coroners and evidence related to blood splatter and to autopsies. It was just a hard day overall, seeing all the photos and the evidence. Carol's demeanor and emotions change very drastically and very rapidly when she hears something, because for her it's like the first time she's hearing it, and not having any memory of the incident, when you're confronted with some of these issues, it's very traumatizing to her, and she just doesn't know and doesn't believe that she could have done this. We got to court this morning. We were supposed to go right into our closing arguments, but Carol had some type of psychotic break. She's confused. She's asking for her mom, asking for her kids, and asking for Rudy.
At this time, the court reporter cannot hear Mr. Allen. Make a record because of the disruptions by Ms. Coronado. At this time, the court is going to order that she be removed from the courtroom.
Stop! Stop saying my name!
While you're doing that, go ahead and make a record.
Your Honor, during the course of the morning, my client became more despondent. Let me talk. I need to talk. More withdrawn, confused, incoherent, and her overall behavior has altered.
I need
Ms. Coronado.
Stop moving the table.
All right, let's go ahead and remove her.
Stop!
Remove her from the court, please. Mr. Allen, you may continue with your record. Mr. Allen, you may continue with your record.
She was lifted and removed by handcuffs. They lifted her off the ground. She screamed through the hallway. It was terrifying. I've never seen her like this before. I don't believe she understands the nature of why she's there anymore. She's having a severe psychotic break. I declared a doubt as to her competency, and the judge didn't find substantial evidence of that today. She feels alone, she feels trapped, and I'm afraid for her safety and her well-being right now.
People versus Carol Ann Coronado, BA 425234. The court finds as follows. The court finds the defendant guilty of murder upon Xenia C., guilty of murder upon Yasmin C., guilty of murder upon Sophia C. The court finds the murder to be in the first degree.
Carol Coronado gave up her right to a jury trial, instead deciding to have a judge decide her fate. Today, that judge decided that she was guilty of first-degree murder in the deaths of her 3 young daughters. During her last court appearance a week ago, Coronado had a breakdown and had to be dragged from the courtroom, kicking and screaming and crying out for her mother, husband, and children. Do you have a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just ask you can you give us just your impression of the judge's decision today? Your attorney was saying, it was not really unexpected, the decision today.
She physically did the action, but she mentally didn't do it. She lost her mind. She lost her mind. It tears me apart because it's my little girls that I lost. I lost my whole family. My three little girls. And Carol, she didn't mean to do that. I strongly believe that.
The sanity phase of the trial, that begins tomorrow. Now, since the DA is not seeking the death penalty in this case, the sanity phase will decide whether Carol Coronado spends the rest of her life in prison or is sent to a mental hospital.
I've never spoken to Ms. Coronado personally, so it's very difficult for me to give you an accurate description. But from what I've read about her, in her employment records, her records in the Army, the military, seems nice. I mean, she seemed like a nice lady. I don't know that I can tell you exactly how you get from being this nice lady to committing these types of heinous crimes.
It was hard to see from behind her, but her lawyer says Carol Coronado did shed a few tears. Deputies were describing what they found in her bedroom in Carson in May of last year. When one deputy saw her, he said, quote, she just had a blank stare on her face. Another said, quote, I don't know if she knew we were there or not.
They saw her in a state of confusion, you know, and that confusion is very important for major depressive disorder, postpartum psychosis, the blank stare, everything that shows she's just not all there.
Well, my role in the trial was to help explain Carol's state of mind at the time that she took the life of her 3 children. I met with Carol 3 or 4 times. It was very clear to me that with the birth of each of her children, her perinatal mental illness became more and more severe. It was very clear to me after I left her the first time that this was a woman who had suffered with postpartum psychosis.
I saw Carol at Twin Towers Correctional Facility once a week over the course of about a year. In my professional opinion, Carol Coronado was psychotic at the time of her crime. The 2 psychiatrists who saw her in the first few days both, said she was psychotic. I mentioned in trial that we kept her on watch for over a year in a gown with 24-hour one-to-one observation, and her risk for was one of the highest, if not the highest at the time at Twin Towers, for any of the 15,000 inmates. You're looking at somebody who is in need of severe psychiatric treatment.
She needs help. She belongs in somewhere where they can get her help. She's a role model person. This disease took over her mind, and she needs mental help.
The court finds as follows. The record should reflect that the court did consider Rule 4.423, subsection B, subsection 2, that the defendant was suffering from a mental or physical condition that significantly reduced culpability for the crime. The difficulty the court had with that rule was that although the court found the defendant was suffering from a mental or physical condition, the language significantly reduced culpability is something where the court believed it lacked. She is ineligible for probation, and probation is denied. The defendant is sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms of imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
And a South Bay mother is going to spend the rest of her life behind bars for murdering her 3 daughters. Her lawyer says she suffered from postpartum psychosis. Well, today the judge said that he believes Coronado needs treatment, but he said, quote, that treatment will have to be in state prison.
I can't tell you why the judge wasn't able to to understand the role that mental illness played in Carol's case, it just doesn't seem like a just outcome to me. I don't know how it's serving justice really at all to have her spend the rest of her life in prison.
How's she doing?
Not good. She told me to tell the family that she loves you guys and it's not your fault. I failed, you know, I failed Carol. I don't know what else I needed to do, you know? I mean, obviously I respect the judge and his opinion, but he got it wrong. I mean, I think the evidence was there, I just don't know what was missing, so. When you look at this and you look at postpartum psychosis and you recognize that it's real, it's placed right in front of our face and there's no other rational explanation, and they still won't even consider it.
This incredibly difficult case of Carol Coronado shows the need for there to be a law. There is a gap when the judge says, I understand the individual was suffering from mental health challenges, but we don't have any regulations to address this. And you're gonna rot in a jail cell for the rest of your life, and we're not gonna address the actual issue, makes no sense to me as a civil society.
We failed her twice. We failed her twice. When she reached out and knew she needed help, we weren't there for her. And then to know that she's facing a life in prison is gut-wrenching. And we have two broken systems, a broken medical system and a broken legal system.
The idea of Carol being in jail, it's unreal. It hurts me. I wish I could help her. She needs help.
It pains me to know that she's sitting there. Because guess what? It can happen to you, it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. It's unbearable, and it's something that we should fight for her.
I have sympathy for what happened to Ms. Coronado leading up to the murders. She was in an extraordinarily bad situation. Her family was financially strapped for cash. She was stuck caring for these kids every single day. So I have sympathy for her situation up until the time of the murders, but obviously I have no sympathy for a person who commits those types of crimes.
It seems obvious to me, having studied these cases for so many years, that the right response is one of empathy, because unless we try to put ourselves in their shoes, we strip ourselves of the ability to stop crimes like this from happening in the future. So if we care about the babies, then we need to actually put ourselves in her shoes and figure out what she would have needed in order to be able to succeed at parenting under these circumstances.
I am not spending my life behind bars. I think I've been given a great opportunity. After I lost Michael, I was tried by a judge who found me not guilty by reason of insanity. I went back to school. I got my master's degree in nursing. I wrote my thesis on screening for postpartum mental illness. I think my story is one of hope. I've lived that horrible story, and I've been able to overcome it.
My wish would be that we could look at these women differently, and that we stop blaming women and punishing them for an illness without recognizing that they are truly ill, and that it is the illness that's driving their behavior, not them. What we need to do is care for these women through the mental health system. We need to get them treatment because we know that when these women are properly treated, they're going to get well. They're going to get well.